and something it's right behind me. If I turn around, I can touch it. And it jumps up on all fours, and I'm like, well, I'm dead. I'm looking at this thing. It bolts out of the bush into the open. It's right next to me. It is right on top of me. It's down on all fours. It has long arms and legs, but the back of this thing, it's not any bigger than 250 to 300 pounds. It's not much bigger than me, it seemed like, as far as height goes. But it's down on all fours. It's facing away from me. It's starting to book it out through the woods. And I remember the back of it, though, the muscular of this creature is unbelievable. It's just like a very large silverback gorilla. I've been all over the place, some with no luck, some with a ton of luck. Up there in Virginia is where the ton of luck was at. I was stationed in Camp Lejeune, so I'd go up to the Croatan National Forest. Had pretty good luck out there. They're extremely shy out in the Croatan. There was no doubt about that, but I got some recordings out there. That's where I had my third sighting, like plain as day. Comes out of the woods, just trots right in front of my car. 10-foot tall female, pinkish red hair, kind of like a big, that one was really hard to describe the appearance of it. It was adorable looking if it wasn't 10 foot tall and weight,
Right.
It's like, do I get out and chase it down and hug it, or do I stay in the car and leave it alone? I stayed in the car.
Yeah.
And then I've been to the Kaamichis, because you deal with guys. I think you did a story on the Honabi, siege on Honabi, and I'd been. Those guys actually have a forum. I don't know if you know this, and it was called the Kaamichi Giants.
Right.
So, yeah. So back in the day, and that forum's still up. You can go through and read all the posts on it, and that was one of the first things they did, I think, to reach out to the community to try to get help with what they were dealing with. And I remember. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Tim and Mike, right? That was the two fellas that was down there having trouble. And I remember one of them, people would give them crap all the time, and they'd be like, "Oh, Bigfoot isn't real," or "You're lying, you're a con man," et cetera. You know how the rundown goes, et cetera, et cetera. It was just dragging them. They didn't very much appreciate being talked to like that. And I remember him telling somebody, well, if you think that it's not real, I was about you come on down to my property and I'll tie a deer liver around your neck and you can just walk boys and you'll find out real quick that they're real.
Yeah.
The offer was most certainly open, and I was really intrigued listening to them talk and seeing them going back and forth. I talked to them a little bit on those forums, and I said, yeah, someday I'm going to go to the Kaamichi Mountains. And it was just like he said, they definitely act different in the Kaamichi Mountains than what they do in Virginia or in North Carolina. That is for certain.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. I want to say it's because, people down there kind of have the attitude of if they hear somebody, snooping around on their property at night, they're liable just to start blasting out off the front porch with a shotgun.
Yeah, they don't like people to come down there and cause them that ruckus or anything like that. That's for certain.
No, but there's other parts of the country where people act like that too, and you don't have the same behavior out of the Bigfoot. So I don't really know if that's it or not.
Exactly. It's wild. Over the, just being. I started in 2013 was when I really started going to the field. It's actually interesting. I'll give you like a quick rundown of how I got into the Bigfoot thing. It was actually back in during the Georgia Bigfoot. When they had one, quote unquote, in a freezer.
Yeah.
All the fallout from that. I'd never given Bigfoot a thought at all, ever. And I saw how much interest that there was in the subject. I saw just like it was massive news coverage about it. And then I kind of started delving into the community. And I said, well, this is real, or at least people think this is real. And that they're very, very interested in it and they take it very seriously. So I should probably start looking into this. Because at the time I was really interested in, gorillas. Why weren't there any apes in North America, questions like that were something that really intrigued me. And I was also interested in old stories that you hear from almost every culture in the world about, giant humans. And that, I mean, I'm pretty sure that it is actually every culture has stories about that. So I'm looking into the subject. I'm not really sure, is it real? Is it ape? Is it, some sort of, ancient human or something like that? That's, we've just kind of, never really recorded. We've not run into it before. And I came across Dave Pilatus's work, and Dave noted that if you overlay a map of the average annual precipitation in the United States with a map of the sightings that people had accumulated back then, I think it's up to about 7,000 sightings on this map that can be given out, and anybody can go look that up. But when you do that overlay, it lines up perfectly. I mean, you can't fake that.
Well, I mean, in fairness, those areas that have the most, the highest annual percentages of rainfall are also going to be the ones that have the most vegetation, the most woods, the most cover. So, like, of course, they're going to be in those areas.
Exactly. It makes perfect sense, too. And the more water you got in an area, the more vegetation and all that, more likely you're going to run into one. And that's just kind of, it's pretty much as simple as that. There's other factors that go into it, I've learned. But that's the big one. If you ain't got water, you're probably not gonna. They might be moving through an area that doesn't have water, but they ain't gonna be moving through it real long. It seems like, because every encounter I've ever had with one over the years, it's been near water.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the main things that we always look for. It was multiple sources of fresh water in an area.
Oh yeah. That's the key for sure. And it seems like they use the water to travel around too. That's like when they're moving, a lot of times it's in a creek, it seems like, or right next to one. And that's even moving like locally when they're really close to you. But yeah, so I saw that, and, I just kept devouring information. I think I remember I counted, and within the first 2 years after that, it was like 20,000 pages worth of sightings that I'd went over. So just a maddening amount of data, and just absorbing, learning from anybody that I could learn from, any forums. Again, the Kaamichi Giants forum, I learned from those guys. Obviously the Bigfoot forums, BFRO. I mean, you name it, I was going through it, and learning from different people. It's like I started learning from the Native American community quite a bit. They were starting to become more public, I guess, with the subject. And they were like, well, it's a people, that's kind of their stance on it. So this is guys like Robert Morgan and Arlo Williams and, different people. And so it's definitely a people. They have a language, they have a family structure, et cetera, et cetera. And it was actually her, about 2013, I started going out to the field because I figured, they're not just out here ripping people's heads off. These things aren't really dangerous unless you give them a reason to be dangerous. Typically, you got to really push them to get them really mad at you, or make a mistake. Like usually, it seems like if you interrupt like a hunt or something like that. I mean, or you're around one and they got kids around them, they don't want you around, so it's just time to leave. Get out of there, and you'll be fine. Because if one of them wanted to get you, I mean, the fact of the matter is, you probably agree with me. You're not going to hear it. It's going to sneak up on you, and you're going to get ambushed,
right?
Or they're just going to hit with a rock from half a football field away. Had rocks thrown at me and everything, and the accuracy is just unbelievable.
I think that's something that doesn't really get talked about a lot. I mean, everybody talks about rock throwing, of course, but the vast majority of rock throwing is just maybe somebody sitting on the bank of a river somewhere fishing, and rocks start flying or whatever. But there's instances where their accuracy is crazy. Especially with the fact that they're throwing through trees to begin with. I mean, if I throw a rock through the woods, I'm hitting the first tree closest to me, and it's going to probably ricochet and hit me in the head. And I've seen these things, beam them off a little lantern pole in a campsite, little pebbles coming from the tree cover. And I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, I don't know how they have that amount of accuracy at all. And they're doing it like undercover too, like you said. It's like you'll never hardly see one throw a rock. I know I never have, and I've hardly ever heard of anybody actually seeing one when they throw it. But I mean, it'll hit literally just inches from you, but never hit you. It'll
Yeah.
never hit you. But it's just crazy. And I know that they use it to hunt. Sometimes they do that just to get your attention, or they're just messing with you. It seems like a lot of the stuff that they do, because I've been bluff charged 2 times, and they wait until I'm dead asleep, of course, when they do it. And it seems like that it's usually just to mess with you. It's just a sense of humor thing almost. See what you'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like being woken up like that, but it makes for a good story.
Yeah, that's not fun. Never a good time.
Oh yeah, on those days, I certainly don't need coffee to wake up when that happens, and I'm back to sleep either. Usually, that was actually the first night in the Kaamichi Mountains. That's exactly how it went. One of them, that was a fun story up there. It's like, going through those forums and hearing him talk about, it's sure how fact of the matter he said it. I will tie a deer liver around your neck and you can walk into the woods and you will find out instantaneously that they are real.
Yeah.
So I finally got a chance, this is when I was in the military, to go up to the Kaamichis, and I didn't have a gun or anything on me because I was coming off of a military base. I'd been there for about 9 months training, and I was just ready to get out of that base and into the woods. And so I get up there to the Kaamichis and I travel around the area, and there's nobody in these woods. I mean, there's just nobody, because I think it was midweek. It was well out of hunting season. It was, I can't remember the exact time of year, but it would have been, pretty early in 20. I'd have to go back and look at it. But that's where that audio recording that I sent you comes from. And so when I'm up there, I ran this truck and I'm out walking around through these woods. And like I said, there's nobody up there at all because I checked all over the place and drove all the roads that cut through these mountains. And I decide at some point there's no activity going on during the day. I might as well go ahead and lay down in my hammock and read some books and go to sleep. And maybe nighttime stuff will pop off. It's like, well, so I'll go up to this truck. And there's this big, I guess it's a rhododendron kind of thing right next to it. And I have a video that you can look at. I can send it to you after this, where that thing is laying. And it's right next to me. I mean, it's literally just a couple of feet from my feet. I'm in this truck messing around with my back turned to this bush. And I accidentally slam a piece of luggage down the back of it too heavy. And something it's right behind me. If I turn around, I could touch it. And it jumps up on all fours. And I'm like, well, I'm dead. A black bear or something is right on top of me. And I'm going to get eat because I don't even have a knife on me. Like I have nothing. And I'm like, well, if it's going to get me, I might as well turn around and look at it. And I'm looking at this thing and it bolts out of the bush into the open. It's right next to me. I mean, it is right on top of me. It's down on all fours. It has long arms and legs, way different than what a bear has. But the hair looks like a bear's. Like it's long, black, shiny hair. It takes me a while to realize the difference between its hair and a bear's. But the back of this thing, I mean, it's not any bigger than 250 to 300 pounds. It's not much bigger than me, it seemed like, as far as height goes. But it's down on all fours. It's facing away from me. It's starting to book it out through the woods, basically going over a hill behind cover is what it's headed towards. And I remember the back of it, though, the musculature of this creature is unbelievable. I mean, it's just like a very large silverback gorilla on the back. And that's one of the things that's different about these things that, some people know, some people don't, is when you look at a bear from the back like that, a bear has a slope to it, and that's grizzly bear and black bear. But these things, I've never seen one with that slope. Like it is a plain, like bodybuilder-ish back that they have to them, or it's just straight flat across the back. It's one or the other, it seems like. And I guess that just depends on how thick the hair is or how muscled up that individual is. But that's what I'm looking at. And I'm watching this thing run away from me, just kind of dumbfounded. And I'm like, well, I thought that there was nothing going on during the day, but then that happened. I don't know exactly what that is for running from me. There's no mistaking what it is. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to follow it because that would be pretty stupid. And it would either piss it off or it would make them not trust me. So I'm just going to go ahead with my plan down to my hammocks, keep setting up and just lay there until I go to sleep. And the way my hammock is set up is, I'll tie it between two trees and I'll have a rope that I tie around the top of it, and I throw a tarp over it to kind of cover me up from the elements and keep everything off of me, give me a little bit of cover, right? And so I'm laying there, and if I go back on the audio recorder, I can look at the precise time that this happened. But something in about the AM, very, very late at night, just takes off through the woods running at me. And I mean, it is moving fast. It is really, really fast. And it sounds like it's about the same size as what I'd just seen during the day. And and the time that it takes me to lift that tarp up to see this thing, because I was like, if it's a bear, it's attacking me, and I need to get in this thing's space, because that's what you got to do. You got to at least try to intimidate the intimidator in this situation. It's the only chance I've got. And if it's a Bigfoot, then I'd really like to see it. So I lift the tarp up and I switch my headlamp on. I always sleep with the headlamp on, which sounds weird, but I'm alone out in the middle of the woods, right? So I want to make sure I've got a light available. And so I lift that tarp up and I look right at this thing with that light on, and it by the time that I was able to do that, I mean, we're talking a matter of seconds. I'm looking down at the ground, and this thing was right next to me. I mean, it was on top of me. I could have reached out and touched it, but it has jumped to around where my head is at, without missing a beat. It's done this, and I could still see the leaves falling where it kicked them up right next to me. And I'm like, okay, it's going around me. Like, this is definitely not a bear. And I still want to see it. Let's see where this thing is going. And so I lean over to the other side of the hammock and I lift it up. This is my right side. And that takes maybe 1 to 1.5 seconds, like, because I have an audio recorder going the whole time and I can time it. And within the time that it took me to lean over and do that, this thing has covered, and I measured it carefully, 50 feet, running away from me into the woods, and it's back behind cover. And you can see all the bushes and everything moving that it's ran through. So I timed it, and I think the timing was about 25, 27 miles an hour. This thing was moving the whole time. Did not miss a beat, did not slow down once, even when it hit the woods, kept running. And so it's going back down through there, and I'm like, well, that was something, and my heart is racing. I mean, the adrenaline is absolutely pumping at this point, but I'm like, there's no reason for me to get up and, go walking through the woods or anything like that. I might as well lay here if I'm getting this kind of activity and see what happens. And then 20 minutes later, from the exact direction that thing was running, there's a large creek down there, and that is where those wood knocks that I sent you came from. And it is so loud, you feel it through the woods. And I mean, I'm talking a football field and a half away, I think is my estimate, how far this creek was at that the sound was coming from. It is so loud that you can, I swear you could feel it that far away. It's the loudest I've ever heard since I've been going out, and I've been going out to the woods, doing this since 2013. So that was interesting. That was my first introduction to Kaamichi. And, but by that point I'd been, I'd had my own experiences and stuff like that. That was probably like 2017 time frame. My first real experience with one. I'd been with the Grayson Highlands. I'd been all over Virginia. I'd been all over Eastern Tennessee. I'd been, to the Smokies, Georgia, places like that, and I didn't have any luck. And I think that the reason I wasn't having any luck was I was, kind of making a lot of mistakes, not being patient enough, not picking my areas right, not listening to the right things. So the key for me getting my first experience was actually from Arla Williams. She told me that you got to listen to the sounds that they make, because most of the sounds that they make are imitations, and they do it really, really, really well. I've got audio somewhere of one. It sounded like a dog barking out in the middle of the woods. And I'm like, well, this dog is lost out here in the middle of the woods, and it is definitely going to die. So I'm going to go try to find it. And I get up and I start moving in the direction of this perfect dog bark. I mean, it's not even louder. I mean, there's nothing off about it. But as I start walking towards where this sound is coming from, it's down on a creek where I always had activity coming from that creek. And all of a sudden you hear it choke on its own spit. And it sounds like a very, very large old man just down there choking. And I'm like, that was not a dog. That's probably the funniest thing I've ever heard out in the middle of the woods. Yeah, he was doing real good until he started choking on his own spit.
It really catches you off guard. People will sit there and debate. I'm past the point of debate at this point in my journey. Like, they imitate animals, like you're saying. They imitate sounds. And whenever they mess up, that's really the only giveaway sometimes, is they mess up. But sometimes for whatever reason, choking on their own spit, or they get a little too excited, they do mess up, and you don't hear regular animals. You don't hear a dog mess up its bark. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah, dogs don't choke on their spit while they're barking. They just keep barking. I've heard a whole lot of dogs bark. I ain't never heard nothing like that. But yeah, but it's stuff like that is what you got to listen out for, because usually, and this goes for about everywhere. It's down. This wasn't how it was in the Kaamichi Mountains. In the Kaamichi Mountains, they just get up in your face, and they didn't. Other than that woodknock, they didn't make a peep.
They don't vocalize a lot in Oklahoma, really.
No, and it's crazy the way the differences between areas of their personalities and of the way that they operate in the woods is absolutely fascinating. I mean, the level of intelligence and I guess the difference in, because they're usually experiencing about the same thing out in the middle of the woods, but then they behave so differently.
Yeah.
And it's just that still blows my mind, and I don't understand that at all. Because I mean, it's distinctly different personalities for every single woods that I've frequented. But yeah, I mean, but getting back to like the sounds that they make, though, Arla had said, listen for the animals in the woods. You have to be familiar with the animals in the woods, and you have to understand that a coyote can only make sounds as loud as a coyote's lungs will allow it to do. A barred owl can only make sounds as loud as its lungs will allow it to do. They can only be so loud. What's the thing about a Bigfoot was that a Bigfoot is an 800-pound creature, or person, or whatever, whatever you believe. I believe that it's probably some kind of hominid, some kind of person for certain, especially based off of the language and the intelligence that they have. But they will have a 800-pound barred owl call. If they just let it go, that's what it sounds like. And you feel that sound. But other than that, it sounds just like a barred owl. It's just that it's a barred owl that's so loud that it vibrates your bones.
Yeah.
And so I've been all over I'm trying to get my own experiences, and I'm not having a whole lot of luck. But there's mountains in Virginia. That's as much information as on it. It's in Virginia. And up there on these mountains, I have relatives that own cabins up there, and they'd said, well, we hear things in the woods, and people know that there's Bigfoot up here, because they'll come up and they'll ding dong ditch you. And, that's a pretty common thing with Bigfoot. They'll come up and they'll knock on your door and they'll take off running at night, or they'll leave stuff out on your porch, or kind of see them. And you start hearing, pretty strange sounds. So I'm like, well, that's obviously this is where I need to go. So I pick out, see, you're kind of close to there, middle of the woods, total backcountry kind of deal. That's what I like to do. And I get up close to water, of course, because you got to have that water source. And I remember the very first experience I ever had with them was actually the samurai chatter. I didn't realize it at the time that that's what it was. But I'm up here and I'm in the middle of absolute nowhere. And I don't really know that the first time in here. I'm still getting the lay of the land, trying to figure it out, just dropping my gear off. That way I don't have to carry it in the middle of nowhere every time I do it. And so I drop my stuff off, and I'm hearing somebody talking right over basically this cliff, right, that you saw in that video if you watched it. And they're right there just talking, and it sounds like a big booming man's voice and like a younger, like maybe like an 8 or 10-year-old boy. And they're just chattering back and forth. And it is plain as day. It sounds like language. And I'm like, well, I'm going to get down low and try to get up closer to where they're talking, so I can't be seen, but I want to hear what they're saying, and it was plainly not English, but to me, it sounded just like words. It's like very well enunciated words, but it's not you couldn't make any of them out, even though I was pretty close to it. And I just kind of shrug it off. It's like, that's weird. And I got to leave, because I got to work the next day, and it's a long hike back in there. And so I just kind of make a note of that, and leave. And I come back a few days later, and it's just on. So I'm down there during the night, and where I just learned from Arla to listen for the owls, especially. And she had recordings of it that she had posted. And I hear it off to my right as I'm laying in the hammock, and it wakes me up. And you could hear it moving around in the woods over there, right across this creek that I was, kind of set up near. there's a cliff, for the viewers. There's some set up, down in the woods, and there's a cliff about 10 feet from me, and it goes down about 8 feet, and it actually forms a cave underneath it. I didn't learn that until way later. And then you have basically a large pond that's been formed out of a river by a beaver dam. And then across from that is where the sound is coming from. There's a large, very densely forested area, but it's especially densely forested across from that pond over where this hill is at, that the sound is coming from. And it is, when I say it's loud, I mean, you can feel the air moving from this barred owl. And I'm like, I've listened to barred owls all my life, and that's not a barred owl. There's no way. And so I know, because of what she had taught me, to stay awake. This is go time. Like, something's about to happen. Or, if something is going to happen, now it's going to happen, and you need to be listening. And I'm laying there not but just a few minutes, and something comes down through the woods, the same direction that I came from myself. And it is on 2 feet, plain as day. It's picking its feet up, and it's walking straight for me. I mean, and that's one of the things that I've noticed about when you're approached by a Bigfoot, typically, versus when you're approached by a wild animal. Because I've had bear come up and run off with my backpack because it smelled like a granola bar and all sorts of stuff like that. Animals hesitate. The Bigfoot don't hesitate at all, usually. They just walk straight up to you. There's no sniffing the ground. There's no stopping and looking around. Every time I've had this happen, they come straight up on you. Except for one time, and I think that one was just messing with me. So this thing walks right up, and I'm talking like it covers it's probably got twice the stride of what I've got. I mean, it's just absolutely covering so much ground, and it's not in a rush at all. It's just calmly walking up to me, and I'm listening to this, and I'm kind of like, well, that's very like adrenaline pumping kind of situation, and I've got a gun, so I'll start reaching up for that gun because I'm just going to pull it down to get it next to me because I have the gun hung up right on top of my head in the hammock, so I can pull it down if I need to. And the time that it took that thing to cover about 80 feet to the time that it took me to unlatch that gun and start pulling it out of that holster, it was already standing directly next to me. So if I stuck my hand left right now, I would be touching this thing. Whatever body part would be right there, it'd probably be like a leg, I would estimate. I would be touching it, and it's right on top of me. I mean, I could accidentally elbow it if I wanted to. Like, I don't know why they like getting close like that. Because I mean, the Kaamichi Mountains, they did the same thing to me. They did the same thing in the Croatan, and different other areas also I've encountered. That seems like a theme. They won't let you look at them. Oh no, they won't let you do that. As soon as you lift that tarp up or you start moving or anything like that, they take off running. Well, they'll stand right there next to you and just kind of check you out. But you just got to be still. I've figured to get any kind of action after that. But this thing is standing there, and you can see it because the moon, it's full moon, and that light is coming down through the tarp that I have set up over top of me. And I'm just laying on my back now, totally still, like, because I don't want to run this thing off, and I'm not sure what it's going to do. I know it's not going to hurt me, but I don't know if it's going to let me see it or if it's going to sit there and start yelling at me and try to run me out of the woods. I don't know what's going to happen. But you can see its head, or the height of it. I would estimate about 7 foot tall. It's blocking out the moon, and it's bobbing. It's kind of doing. You've heard of them when they rock back and forth.
Yeah.
Kind of like they get nervous. They do that. That's what it's doing. It's standing right there next to me like this, and you can feel the body heat off of it. It's so close, and it's just rocking back and forth, and it's not making a sound. You can kind of hear really light breathing, just a little bit, but there's no like grunting. There's no raspiness to it or anything like that. And it leans again a little more than what it had been leaning. And it just keeps leaning, and it gets right up next to my head. So now it is definitely looking in right at the back of my head, leaning in, and I can feel the heat of it, like hitting me in the face, basically, because it's breathing on me, basically. And it's looking right at me, looks at me for a few seconds, and it stands back up. And I'm like, well, that was pretty interesting. And it has something in its hand. And it did this twice. This one's done this a few times, and it just sprinkles it on the top of my tarp and just walks off.
What?
And the whole time, yeah. And it's dirt. It's sprinkling dirt on me on top of my tarp. And yeah, I don't know why. It's just a weird thing to do. Like, why would you do that? I guess, I don't know. Do you think it's funny or whatever? It's like, it doesn't bother me. I'm just curious. I still don't understand at all why this one would do stuff like this. But yeah, it walks off the whole time that barred owl sound is going on down there. And I'm like, well, okay, so my plan of action is to just lay here and be as still as possible. I'm not going to turn on any lights or anything like that. I'm just going to keep seeing what goes on. Well, I end up nodding off because, it's just so late and I'm tired. And here it comes again. Same exact direction, same exact actions. It walks right back up on me. It wakes me up walking. And I'm just laying there. It's like, okay, well, I guess we'll see what happens this time. And all it does is just repeats the same exact thing that it just did, including sprinkling dirt on my tarp, because I found out that it was dirt the next day. And then it walks off. And I'm like, well, okay, that's fascinating, but there's nothing really I can do about it because I'm not going to go out, shining lights at them or anything like that. So my best bet for continuing to get things from them like this, because I want to keep coming up to these woods for certain as often as I can. And boy, I did, man. I mean, it was every weekend. It seemed like any chance I got, even during the week, I'd drive up there and just spend my time up there in those woods. After that, it walks off, and yeah, end up waking up. It probably would have been about 10 a.m. And it's kind of a gloomy day, and I'm just laying there, and I'm hearing the sound, coming off again about maybe 15 feet from me. It's down below that cliff. And it sounds like something standing there. And the only way I can describe it is something taking a wooden stick and popping it against a Tupperware bowl. So, but it's doing it in a pattern. Like there's an intelligible pattern to it. Like, I wouldn't say like musical, but it's like, yeah, you hear different patterns like da, 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 da. Like, it's not like that, but it's, it is a intelligent pattern that's repeating the same way that is.
Yeah.
And I'm laying there listening to this, and I'm like, well, that's pretty strange. And that's pretty obvious too. Like, it's not real loud, but it's definitely standing right there doing this. And I'm laying there, got that tarp in between, over top of me, so I can't really see anything. And I'm like, well, what'd be pretty interesting for me to do is to try to clap that pattern back to it. And so I'm laying there, and about 4 or 5 times we'd go back and forth. I could not clap fast enough to keep up with the pattern that this thing was doing. So I'd try to clap the pattern back, and then it would do another pattern back at me. It would shift the pattern up. And 4 or 5 times it does this. And I'm like, well, this is absolutely interesting. I'd really like to see what's doing this, because why not? But I'm not going to, jump out of the hammock and run over there and try to look at it, because I know it's just going to run away. And then they might, cut off interaction. They might not trust me or something like that. Something along those lines will probably happen. You don't want to come across as neurotic, because they're just so shy and skittish. It seems like, that if you goof up with them, I've noticed, like, if you make a mistake, it might be 3-6 months before you get interactions.
Yeah, once you screw up, you might as well go pack it up and go home. It's over.
You might as well go ahead and find some new mountains to go look for them in, because they don't get over it quick, it seems like. But it's like, and I don't want to do that. Like, I know that's what would happen, because that's what I was taught, and I learned it the hard way a few times after that. Because I started following them around the woods. You'd hear a knock, and I'd go running after it. And don't do that. So there's a storm coming. There's the thunders starting to come up, and I don't really have any waterproofing gear. I've got electronics out. I got my cell phone, things like that. I can't afford to lose those things. I don't have the money to replace them. I was just a meat cutter back then, and I was driving a Ford Expedition, so it took all the money I had just to be able to drive that thing up to these mountains. It's getting like negative 11 miles to the gallon. So, yeah. So I'm like, well, yeah, one way or another, I've got to get out of this hammock and start moving. And I'm hearing what sounds like a woman talking, back deeper in those woods. And she has a scratchy voice, and you hear her back there, kind of chit chattering. And yeah, she kind of holler a little bit, and then it sounded like she would start chattering, and then she'd go back to hollering. And I'm like, well, that's pretty interesting. But I've got to go. And that was a pretty good distance from me. And so as soon as I raise up, I lean down to get my boots on. I have these big, long snake boots on. And they're laying right underneath me. That way I can get them easy without having to walk through the woods. And I lean down and I grab them. So my hand is, the way I'm leaning, you have my head, and then my hand is about 2 feet down, and it's holding these boots. And as soon as I do that, exactly from the direction that that thing was down there tapping those patterns to me, a rock flies up. And I don't know if it was trying to hit me in the face. I don't know if this aim was just this good somehow, even though I had a tarp covering me, it was able to figure this out. It hits in that 2 foot window right below my head and above my hand. This rock about the size of my fist just slams into me. I mean, it would have knocked the crap out of me if it hit me. And falls down on the ground. And I was like, well, that definitely just happened. And I'm going to try to see this thing now. So I ripped that tarp up, and I walked over there to that little cliff, that overhang, and I don't see anything. And I'm like, well, it might have just, it might have just either crawled away, because it definitely could have done that, because I did hear something moving, or, I don't know what else it could have done. I didn't realize that there was a cave. That I was standing on top of a cave that could fit about 5, pretty good sized people in it. So I guess all it did was just duck into the cave. But the thing is that in order for it to be able to see me lean up and grab that boot, right, to start moving, and for it to be able to throw that rock, this is what I'm thinking. It had to have been over 10 foot tall. Jeez. Because that cliff was about 8 to 9 foot up off the ground, that little overhang I'm standing on. So it's standing there watching me the whole time. And it had enough clearance to be able to log that rock at me as soon as I started moving. So yeah, I still have that rock. Everything if they throw at me or if they give me or anything like that, because I've been given turtle shells, or a big one. You get like these perfect turtle shells that are turned out in the most random of places, but it's somewhere that it's definitely not a coincidence that it's sitting where it's sitting, because up in those woods, and also in Tennessee and things like that, I've got friends that live on property, and they've showed me pictures and everything, some really good pictures of them that they kind of keep to themselves. And they will have turtle shells just popping up on like picnic tables all over the place and things like that. They're the most perfect turtle shells you ever seen in your life. I mean, it's just like picture worthy turtle shells. And I've had bird nests. I've had one walk up to me and then it walked off. And the next morning I looked exactly where it was standing, and there was the bird nest just sitting right there. No trees overhead or anything like that. All sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, it's just been fascinating since then. I mean, of course, when you have a night like that, I mean, it just really kicks it in. And it took me a while before I finally had my first sighting, and it was in those same woods. It was deeper in them. I remember it was one of the coldest nights ever that I'd been out. I mean, I think the wind chill was 30 below up there. It was coming pretty bad winter storm. And, of course, I double, triple, and quadrupled up on clothes, and just kept on pushing down into the woods. And you hear what sounds like a woman yelling. Like, it's not like a panic yell, but it's just like a holler, basically, is how I would describe it. And by this time, I'd learned anytime you hear that, like, that's definitely them, and something's about to go down. As I'm cresting the top of this hill, it's on the other side of the hill from me. I know that as soon as I get up to that ridge line, I need to crouch down and start scanning from the direction that it was moving to the direction that it was going. And that's exactly what I did. And I'm looking, and I, right to left. And as soon as I get to the left, there's this like a rhododendron, I guess is what it is, bush right here. And this thing just unfolds out of it. I mean, like, have you ever seen, I don't know if I can send you the picture after this, but it's called the Kentucky Bigfoot on a Hill. Now, the site that this was originally posted to was a blog, and it was like the Bigfoot Chicks or something like that. I think that blog's been taken down, but it is a mirror image of that picture. And I think that is a picture of one, because you can see the soul that's split and everything. And I mean, when people say 3.5 to 4 foot wide at the shoulder, like, that's numbers, but when you actually see it, it is unbelievably huge.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. Like, it is almost comical how big some of them are.
The first sighting I had that same night, I saw a second one. I'm convinced I saw a second one, but there's no way for me to prove it. And it was crazy because I was looking right at it and it wasn't hiding behind anything. The problem was I was looking down a hiking trail, and this thing was probably, I don't know, 30 yards back or so on the trail, standing on the trail. and it was blocking out the entire trail. But it's nighttime, and I don't have any light source or anything other than the moon coming through the tree limbs. And I can see what kind of looks like something hunched down, ducking under this tree limb. And very slowly, I see the pad of a humongous foot lift up off the ground and step so slow back into the shadows. And this car started coming down this road. We were in a park, so it's like a park service road, and this car's coming. And I know the layout of this park like the back of my hand, so I know that car is going to come around this corner up here, and its headlights are going to go across that trail, and I'm going to see this thing lit up by those headlights. So I'm just staring down this trail. And right as those headlights started sweeping through the woods, coming closer, this thing jumps off to the side of the trail, just goes crashing through the woods, just tearing through there like a bulldozer. And now I can see that this thing was taking up the entire opening of the trail. And I could see all the way down it now, clear as day. This thing, we went back later on because like after that I was kind of shaking, and we took off. But whenever we came back, I had a night vision scope with me now. I came back armed and prepared, and I had my buddy. I wouldn't do it, but I had him go down the trail and stand underneath that tree limb. And this thing had to have been every bit of 10 foot tall, because that tree limb was at least 10 feet tall off the ground, and its head was right underneath it, and it was kind of ducked down underneath it. And I mean, to cover that trail, 4.5 feet wide, easily at the shoulder. I mean, just massive. It blocked out an entire opening to a hiking trail.
It's like looking at a moving barn.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that's how it is too. I mean, it's just ridiculous, and I understand why people are skeptical about them existing just based off of the size of them. It's like, how is that even possible?
How does that maneuver through the woods?
Yeah, how's it moving through the woods, and how's it doing it quiet?
Yeah,
why is it quiet? Because they'll sneak right up on you. I've had them sneak right up on me. I mean, and huge ones have done it, and it'll be right there next to you. You didn't hear nothing. It's just right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one's about like what you're talking about. It was shorter because I was able to measure it, based off of that bush that it just unfolded up out of. I'm looking at it directly from the back, and I think I woke it up because it wakes up and it's like it's just irritated and sighing. If you first wake up, you're just kind of like standing there a little bit, kind of rocking and drowsy. And I'm watching it just kind of, do that. And I could see it from the waist up. Never could see its legs. But I'm looking at the arms and the back, especially the back and the top of the head. And I'm just like taking it all in. I'm like, this was my first one. It's not 70 feet from me. I mean, it's right there. And it's just like I said, comically wide at the shoulders, and it's completely covered. And it's not really like totally long hair. I would estimate maybe, 5-inch, something like that, all over at the longest. But it's hard to estimate it because it was all the same color, and it was the color of a cardinal. And I remember the first thing I thought is, how in the world are you getting around these woods with all the hunters that come up through them and not get shot at? It's like, I know you probably had a hard life being collared like that. He just kind of wanders on around the side of the hill real slow like, and I watch him go. And I followed him for a bit. I never did. Of course, I didn't catch up to him or anything like that, but I didn't push it very hard. I knew better than to do that. But that was the first one. And I assumed that it was a male just based on how the shoulders were. It kind of a tapered waist, the way he's built. I mean, just not like I wouldn't say like a muscled up, like a body built, but just a big old corn-fed country boy kind of look to him. It was best way I could describe it, but he was big. And so that was the first time I ever saw one. And that was many months after, several months at least, after I'd had my first interaction, because I think the first interaction is what I was describing that first night when they were just coming down there and they'd just stand right next to me. That was probably springtime, and this was like dead of winter, like January time frame, something like that, when it's at the coldest up there. And then you carry on. There was another experience that I had, and this one was really intense. So you remember how I was talking about, it seems like every time they really, really, really just like getting close to people. And I think that that's just their way of kind of showing off to each other.
Yeah, counting coup.
Yeah, counting coup. That's exactly what I call it too, counting coup on you. And it's just messing with you, or it's making a game out of it, it seems like to me. And but when they come walking up to you, I mean, it's real confident. They don't hesitate at all. It's just, you just hear it walking through the woods, and then all of a sudden it's standing right next to you, or it's snuck up on you, like I was talking about. It's right there next to you, and you hear a stick break, and the thing snuck right up next to you. And then if you try to lift that tarp or you move it all, it just goes crashing through the woods. But it makes a lot of noise if you try to look at it, and you might see a glimpse of it, but other than that, it's just going to be right there next to you, kind of goofing around or whatever in the world that's doing. But this is the only time that I've ever had them get up close to me, and it wasn't. And I knew it. I knew it was close to me, and it wasn't being confident. So this one was absolutely massive. I mean, it's coming down through the woods that same exact direction as that first night. Now this is months on down. I mean, it might have even been a year after all this kicked off. I'd have to go and look at my time frame, but this was after I'd seen my first one. This is after I'd been having experiences with gifting and things like that I really would like to get into on the show, because I think that some of my ideas could really help people interact with them and things like that, but we'll get into that later. So I'm having a lot of experiences, and it's really, it's starting to amp up, and, I'm getting better at what I'm doing and things like that. And I'm getting a lot more confident with them too, so I don't have any fear of them at all. And even like in the Kaamichis, which was well after all of this, that was years after all of it. I never was really afraid of them at all. Like even when they get up in my face and things like that. I'm not going to, do anything to disrespect them. I'm not going to push any actions. If it's clear that they want me to leave or to not go in a certain area, I'm not going there. But at the same time, there's just, I feel confident that nothing bad's ever going to happen as long as I follow suit with whatever they're suggesting that I do, basically. But this one's coming down that same direction, and when it would take 2 steps. And I mean, it would sound like a death charge, just doom, doom. And you would feel it in the ground. It would shake the ground when it would do this. And then you would hear it sniff the ground. And then it would take 2 more steps, doom, doom, coming down through. You feel it, sniffs the ground, hesitates, stays there for a bit, does it again. And it repeats this over and over and over again until it is directly next to me. And at this time, I thought I was having trouble with a bear, because a bear, way back in the woods, had tore up my favorite heritage hunter sleeping bag, which I was super pissed off about that. And I was like, well, a Bigfoot would never do something like that. They will absolutely do stuff like that all the time. They'll go through your gear, shred it. And it's like, it might be younger ones, and they really just don't know what they're doing. I really don't know, but they'll goof around with your equipment if you just leave it out there. There's just no doubt about it. But I didn't think that, so I thought it was a bear. So I have convinced myself already, before this thing even started walking down to me, that this is a bear. And this bear is coming to get me, and I'm going to have a huge problem with it. And I have a 44 Magnum that is perfect medicine for trouble bears. So I'm already in the wrong mindset for this situation. And I'm getting amped up. You start getting that adrenaline pumping, and it's like, this thing is right next to me. This is like, I'm getting ready to get attacked. Like, it's going to rip me out of this hammock, and I'm going to be fighting for my life. And by then it's going to be too late for me to shoot the thing. So I need to go ahead and jump it. I need to go ahead and, just run this thing off, start running and gunning at it, or whatever I need to do from there, because this is not a safe situation, assuming that it was a bear, which it was not, which I learned here in a little bit. So I rip that tarp up, again, turn on my headlamp, which I'm wearing, and, looking right where it just was, and just like a Looney Tunes cartoon, it is gone. It has taken back off the direction that it has come from, and it has done it so fast. 70 feet, I think is it couldn't be. Maybe I'd have to go measure it. It's maybe 50, 60 feet, something like that, to where these down trees are at. That's where it came from. And it has already busted through those, and I didn't get to see it, but you could see the branches and everything off of that downs tree moving. And of course you heard it, because it sounded, like a war zone. It's this thing moving through the woods. It is absolutely ridiculously huge. I mean, the weight of it was so heavy. that it would make those trees move that I was hung up on. The trees aren't real thick, but still, it was that big that it was, moving on the ground like that when it was, running or when it was moving up towards me. And I'm like, well, yeah, maybe that'll be the last I hear from this thing. And it's gone. So now keep in mind, and I'm completely, I kicked myself for that situation now, because that whole time I'm hearing rock clacking, wood knocks, and the hooting and hollering that you hear typically from a very active Bigfoot area. And when the Bigfoot's around, you could pretty well bet that they ain't going to be mountain lions or grizzly bears.
Right. Nothing else is around.
They're not going to mess around with a Bigfoot. All right. Like, because a mountain lion getting after an adult Bigfoot would be a lot like somebody getting taken down by a house cat. All right. It's not going to happen. So those animals get out of the woods when they come around. They're not going to be close to them. And, so this thing runs off, but I'm not, but again, like I don't know what was wrong with me. I'm just crazy. And I'm thinking, well, I ran that bear off. I guess I'm never going to have to see it again. The biggest black bear that's ever existed, like dinosaur sized black bear. Apparently, I just thought I had a record breaker next to me, apparently. So it's gone. And I'm like, well, I got to go, relieve myself because I've been drinking too much water. So I go back up, in the direction that thing ran off to, because you got to get a certain distance away, follow the proper rules of the woods and, not be leaving any smells or anything like that close to camp. So go up there and I get done to come back, lay back down. And well, as soon as I lay down, here comes that thing again, coming right back in that same direction. I hear it coming up. It's on all fours the whole time this thing's interacting, the whole time this thing's moving through the woods. It goes up there to where I just relieved myself, taking a leak, and it's sitting there smelling that, like paying attention, close attention to my smell that I'd left. I said a Bigfoot wouldn't do that. Surely a Bigfoot would never smell where you had peed or something like that. They will absolutely do that.
Yeah.
Will definitely do that. And so this thing, again, it repeats the same exact thing that he had just done. Same exact path, same exact pattern. Two real heavy footsteps, kind of shuffling through the woods. And then it sniffs the ground. Two heavy footsteps, sniffs the ground. Something I have noticed, kind of side note, is that when they sniff the ground, when a bear sniffs the ground, you can kind of hear that long draw as that air, it seems like, is moving through its snout. At least this is to me. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know if you've heard the same thing. When they do it, it's like a person doing it. It's like a tiny sniff. It's not like a big draw. So it's that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing this thing like sniff on the ground as it's coming up close to me. And again, it gets right next to me. A bear wouldn't do that. Bears don't do crap like that. And they especially don't do it and then just sit there right next to you. And this thing is just right there. It's not moving, but it is so close. Now I'm like, I'm going to get it this time. Now I'm going to be sneaky because I'm going to slowly get the tarp up and I'm going to get to at least see what it is. Because now I'm starting to kind of come down out of that crazy mode. And I'm like, that's pretty weird. And I start lifting the tarp. And I notice when I'm reaching down, I'm kind of have to push against that tarp to get down to the bottom of it. The tarp stops moving. I'm touching this thing. Like it's so close. I have my hands on this thing's side and it is not moving. So I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty crazy. Let's see if I can rip the tarp up and get a look at this thing. And so I reached down. I didn't feel any hair because the tarp was kind of, bent in towards me. That's kind of just the way I wrap it up. But I ripped that tarp up and, switched my light on and I look right at this thing and it's just right next to me. So this is my second sighting and this one was a good one. So this thing, it's maybe like, when I get eyes on it, maybe 5 feet from me. It's down on all fours and it's starting to just running from me. It's down on all fours, covered in about, probably in some spaces, foot long, blonde, curly hair. It's pretty unique looking.
Curly hair.
Yeah, curly hair. No kidding. It kind of, it's almost like have you ever seen a Afghan hound?
Yeah.
That's how I describe it. That's kind of what she looked like, but it wasn't quite that shaggy. It was, it's really something else to look at. And it's looking right at me. So as it's turned, it's kind of turned backwards as it's moving away from me, and looking right at me. Now, I've got my flashlight right on it. So I notice as it's turning its head, the odd shine, it seemed like it went green and then it went red. Once it's looking straight at me with that light on it, I don't know if it's just how the light is or what it is, but I start seeing that red eye shine. It's looking right at me, and I get to look at the face and everything. It had to be a pretty human looking face, kind of. It's pictures like I think William Osmussen has some art on the Kaamichi Giants forums, and that is spot on to what I was looking at. And it has gray skin though, dark gray skin. I remember that very well, and it's really interesting to see the contrast between that dark skin and that really, really blonde looking hair. But it's moving away, and it is absolutely massive. It is definitely 10 foot tall. It is definitely on all fours, and it is built. I mean, you could see her. It's female because you can see the breast, and it's you could see the lat muscles on its back, even through that hair. You could see some muscle definition. I mean, she was just built. I mean, very impressive physique on this creature, and it's running away. You can hear the ground. Like every time her hand or foot would hit the ground, you feel it, and moving pretty quick. And one of the details that I instantly noticed was the way she moved was just the craziest thing to look at. And I think you might have noted it on some of the shows. You've probably seen the same thing. When they move, it is smooth as glass. I mean, it is unbelievable coordination. It's like when you watch a bear or something like that bounding through the woods, it kind of has a bounce to it, right? And it's like you see it out or something like that. These things, every time I've seen one running, it's not like that at all. It is just like it glides across the ground. It is, and like watching how she moved her arms and legs to accomplish that feat was wild, because her arms and legs are going all over the place. So she's like maneuvering away from me. But her back and head stay perfectly level. Like it's not bouncing at all. It's just like she's just moving straight back from me. And so I watch her go through the woods, and for some reason, it's like my fight or flight had kicked in, which really sucks because that totally ruined the whole situation. So I jump out of the hammock and I've got my gun and I'm pointing my gun right at it, which is not something you should ever do to one, ever. Cause I thought it was, it's a bear. Yeah. For some reason, my brain is just screaming, it's a bear, it's a bear, it's a bear, it's a bear. You got to go get it. Like this thing is a problem. And it does not look anything like a bear. I mean, it has like, a flat face like a human, looks like a person. It's got red eye shine. It's beating feet away from me. It doesn't look anything like one. But for some reason, I guess I pure panic. And I realized that I was freaking out, and I was, putting myself in danger and also putting them in danger by continuing to be down there. So I just kind of like gathered some of my stuff and walked back to the car, because I needed to defuse the situation, because I was going to end up ruining everything that night. So I could have shot it. It's a wonder that I didn't. And, thankfully I didn't do anything like that. But I get back up to the car and I'm laying there, and, I'm texting some of my friends. I'm like, this just happened. Like, I don't really know what to do. And still, now I'm starting to realize like you're out of your mind. You're fight or flight. That was definitely not a bear, but I'm not going to go back down there, just because I don't want to, I feel like I've ruined the situation, like we talked about earlier. I've made a huge mistake. But it's down there, and it's down there like clacking rocks together, like slamming rocks together, exactly where I just seen it, like making a racket, like it's trying to get me to come back out. And you hear the whoops and the hollering, and something comes up to the car and is walking around my car. And, but I just kind of laid there, not wanting to, exacerbate the situation, I guess would be the best way to put it. But after that night, and I feel like what it was is that one was the mom, like that's the big alpha female, or, however you want to put it. And she was trying to see how I would react in a, like a pressure situation. Because after that moment, I guess she was thankful that I didn't shoot her. Things started really escalating down there. Like, I would get activity more frequent. They were interacting with the stuff that I would leave out for them way more frequently. And it seemed like that there was a level of comfort. That is definitely not a count and coup kind of situation. That's you to seeing how you react, because they have babies, they have youngsters and family, just like us or any other creature does. And I guess they want to kind of gut check you every now and then to make sure that you're not, going to react in a very negative way in a pressure situation, which makes sense to me that an intelligent creature would do something like that. And I think gorillas do the same thing. This very similar to people that are going out on expeditions. Look at them also from what I've read. Yeah, that's some of the most intense experiences that I had up there by far.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a person who's definitely not an advocate of going out by yourself. Obviously that's a choice left up to the individual, but I will say I don't think those experiences would have happened that way if you hadn't been by yourself.
Yeah, and it's like it's like for the viewers, it's like you got to kind of play it by ear because like there's some areas that I probably wouldn't go to by myself. Obviously, be very selective about who you bring out with you. There definitely does. I don't know because I have yet to go out with anybody really, except for my dad that one time, and we had activity, but it wasn't like they were walking up in the camp with us or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if you or you had somebody else with you, like I said, I don't think you would have been in that situation. But if you had found yourself in that situation, you don't know how the other person's going to react. If you had reacted differently, it would have changed everything. I mean, you may not be here right now talking about it.
Yeah. We might have went, they might have shot it, and then things could have really been down south if that happened in numerous different ways because they definitely don't like getting shot. Show people
yeah,
that they do not like getting shot or shot at or having weapons pointed at them. They do not react very well to that. So, don't recommend that one. But yeah, I don't think that experience would have happened if somebody else was there with me. I think that one had to have a certain level of comfort with kind of how things were set up, and then I had to have a certain level of comfort also in order for the situation to happen, and it just kind of happened.
And this was all in the same general area as your first experience.
Yeah, it was. All that was in the same exact area. Yeah. I would repeat patterns. I've learned to do that. It's like I try to wear the same clothes.
Right.
I try to move same areas, set up my camp in the same place. When I leave out gifts, I leave the gifts out in the same exact place, well hidden away from everything. I think that the pattern doing that kind of helps. It seems like build up a level of comfort. It also helps me keep track of everything because it's really easy to lose things if I leave them up there because it's pretty dense up there. So, but yeah, getting the gifts though, something I really wanted to cover because this is something that viewers can do. Because the fact of the matter is that most of the Bigfoot researchers, most people interested in this subject that I ran into, and I'm talking the vast majority that I know, they don't want to get close to Bigfoot. A lot of them don't even really want to see one, except for under very controlled circumstances. Like they're afraid of them, and that's fair. Like they are, and it's like, 10 foot tall, 1,000-pound, animal or person or however in the world you want to put it, and it moves smooth as glass at 50 miles an hour as they've been measured to move in the past. It's pretty intimidating, and even I'll admit that they are intimidating. That's a fact. But you can still, you can get interaction with them. I mean, most of the stuff that they do is auditory anyway, and you can get audio recordings, things like that. But something that's worked really well for me is leaving stuff out in the woods for them. They might not take it immediately. They'll come up and look at it, and it might be a month, 2 months, and then all of a sudden it's all gone, or they've moved it or something like that. But if you can find a toy, you can get like a Chewbacca doll for like $10 on eBay. I've left those out in the woods, and they get taken almost every single time.
Let's get into the gifting a little bit. Like, how did that all start? What was like your first interaction and everything?
Okay, yeah, but I can actually cover that story. And so I'll do like the rundown. So with gifting, the trick is, and this seems to get them comfortable with people, and this seems across the board, find something that looks like them, like a plush toy or something like that. It can be anything. And you can find them cheap, like I said, on eBay, and leave that out in your favorite woods somewhere where no human is ever going to go and find it. And we just leave it. just leave it. Somewhere you're going to be frequenting that you like going to, like off the trail of a favorite hiking path near a creek, something like that would be a really good place to start. And then laminated pictures. You can get this, you can get a printer, something that can print pictures, picture paper, and you can get a laminator, like a Scotch Brite laminator, or however in the world you want to do it. You can get it all for maybe like $150, and just find pictures that you think they'd be interested in. Find pictures that you think is something that's intelligent, that lives out in the woods, that doesn't have internet, that's inquisitive and curious about the world around it, would like to see, that would be curious about, and just leave them out in the woods, but in the same place that you leave the toy, leave them there. And I've gone so far as to bury the pictures in the ground. And what you need to be you need to be absolutely sure that you do this part. You have to video the order you lay the pictures down in, because even if you bury those pictures in the ground, they will come and they will uncover them. They will get them out and flip through them. And then when they put them back, they're shuffled. They're not in the right order anymore. Now, the top picture will always be the same, I notice, but the ones underneath it, they shuffle them because they're not being that meticulous. Then they'll rebury it.
Not a person. Not a person, not an animal.
Definitely not. And see, and the thing about this is that is a fantastic way to get their hair, because their hair is kind of similar to like the hair on our head. Like it sheds, it falls out. Just like I kind of have long hair now, and my hair falls out. But what happens is, I think it's the plastic. It's that material that the laminate is. It just so happens to be really good at collecting the hair and pulling it off of them when it's falling out.
Yeah, all staticky.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I've gotten the medulla. The medulla, I think is what it is. It has the bulb that has the DNA in it and all that. It's really used to get the DNA. It'll get that too. And it'll just be sitting there in between the panes of pictures. So I would really like to see a movement of researchers going out and at least leaving pictures out and seeing if they have the same experiences that I do. I would dang near begging people to do it, because I would love to see if this works, because I thought it up all on my own. I'm proud of myself.
Yeah. I mean, years ago down in Paris, Texas, I was kind of a consultant to a long-term research project that was going on some property. A lot of people have seen the videos from the property on MK Davis's channel on YouTube. He eventually got his hands on the videos and posted a bunch of them, but down there, I personally witnessed this happen. There was a small tree. It was like a sapling, and it was kind of by this area where we had set up a fire pit and everything. And we called it the gifting tree, and that's where we would leave things to interact with them a lot of the times. There were other locations that we would do it, but that was like the main one or whatever. And we had taken one of the main researchers down there. We took a photograph of him and took a clothespin and just clipped it onto one of the tree limbs on this tree and left it there overnight. And the next morning, whenever we came back or whatever, the picture was gone, but in that clothespin was a tobacco leaf.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
That is absolutely fascinating. And it ain't really much doubting what that was.
No, I mean, let's exchange it and use a clothespin that takes a thumb, But yeah, they can confirm they like photos and pictures and stuff.
Oh yeah, I love that. I want to remember that story. I'm gonna keep that in my brain housing group for.
Yeah,
definitely. That's amazing.
But I've never heard about anybody burying this stuff and them unburying it and then reburying it. That's amazing.
Yeah, because I get pretty paranoid. It's like, when I pick some wood, if I'm going to frequent them, it's the middle of freaking nowhere. But I still get paranoid, because I'm trying to, rule out any possible interference of any other creature, people, anything like that.
Right.
So I'll do stuff like that. Sometimes I'll just bury my stuff, or I'll hide it like in the middle of the bush, and it doesn't seem to. It's like they're always watching you. And that's one of the first things I was taught by like Robert Morgan and people like Arla Williams, was that they are always watching you. Just go ahead and get in that mindset when you're out there, and kind of roll with that, because you can pretty well bet if you're out tromping around the middle of the woods and you're the only person there, you probably got some attention on you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess you could randomly drive down the road and just hop out of the truck real fast and run in about 30 feet and do something and run back to the truck. But no, if you're frequenting an area and making yourself known and actually spending time there, like you're saying, if they're in the area, it seems to be there's at least one that has its eyes on you at all times.
Yep. Yep. And it doesn't matter day or night. It seems like that's how it was. Cause I mean, I've had plenty of experiences during the day. It's like, they're definitely way more active during the night. There's no doubt about that. But the day, I've not had a whole lot of trouble having interactions with and doing that. But yeah, the pictures, I definitely do want to see. I mean, I'll ship pictures to people and they can leave it out in their favorite woods because I just want to see if it works. And if it starts getting hairs, I mean, we can use that, for, I guess, discovery or whatever to learn more about them. Because I know there's been projects that have gone on, and a lot of them, they either really, really struggle or they totally fail trying to get the DNA. It's so hard to do, and it's because of the nature of this community, the Bigfoot community. There's so much infighting, there's so much ego, it seems like, in it. It's just hard to get anything done.
You've talked about them rearranging the pictures and taking things. Have you experienced any trading taking place? Are they leaving objects for you after they take something?
So they've never in the gifting areas that I set up, at least that I've noticed, they've never left anything there. But I have had stuff gifted to me. It was actually this was actually before that second sighting. This happened. This was when I made one of my mistakes. Right, that's where you're just like chasing them around the woods. Don't do that. I mean, you can, but there's going to be repercussions for it. Either they're going to get really mad at you and they're going to try to run you out of the woods, or they're just going to start ignoring you, which is what happened to me. But there was one time that I was doing that. This is during the day, and I'm hearing knocks. Like, there's no doubt about it. I'm hearing knocks, and they're not that far from me, that they're just out of view. And I'm like, well, I'm going to just follow it. I'm going to take all my stuff off, my gun and everything, and I want to just start following that sound and just see what happens. Because maybe they'll let me see it. Or something like that, because otherwise, what else am I supposed to do with that, right? I'm hearing knocks, I might as well follow it. And so I'm following it, and I would get to where I had heard it, the knock coming from, and then you would hear it about the same distance away, again, behind cover, knocking again. Well, I just kept doing that, just repeating this pattern, following this thing through the woods, and it's basically leading me on during this is broad daylight. And eventually I do come by a stump. It's a stump just in the middle of the woods with a perfect turtle shell sitting right on top of it. And that was, I'd heard a knock coming from there, like just moments before. So I think that I've had gifts given to me that way. Just them kind of leading me to it, or I have had them come up to where I'm sleeping and leave me stuff also. That happened in the Kaamichis, actually. It's like they can be really fun to interact with in the Kaamichis. They're just really, really, really brazen and brave. It's like I've heard of them. Like there was a story somewhere. I'd have to go back and look at exactly who was talking about it. But there was one. It was like a younger girl one. She was like 6 foot tall, maybe something like that. And she would like to ding dong ditch people and follow them back to their house and knock on their door and run off. Which they just seem to like doing stuff like that anyway. But she would find researchers out in the woods if she was familiar with them, and she would unzip their tent and pull them out of it. She wouldn't hurt them.
No, not doing that.
Yeah, she would do it, and she would just stand there and look at them and just walk off. And they said, like something's unzipping my tent. It's like they were familiar. They know there's Bigfoot there, and they've seen her before, and they kind of know how the Bigfoot are in the area, and so he said, as soon as I saw the arm come in, I was like, okay, I'm fine. Like, this, whatever, and she just grabbed him by the pants and just pulled him out and just stood there and looked at him and walked off. It's like, that's terrifying. It's funny as long as you know what it is and it's not going to hurt you, but it still is like, oh yeah, that's a brown pants moment.
Yeah. I was laying there one night and heard the tent unzip in the middle of the night, instantly woke up, just terrified, waiting for that big hairy arm to reach in. And the flap kind of pulled back on the tent and a raccoon walked in. Yeah,
raccoons will do it too.
And that's when I learned the valuable lesson of taking my bootlaces and tying the zippers closed at night.
Yep, tie the zippers closed or move the zippers to the top of the tent.
Yeah.
If it's a tent that's able to do that. That's funny. But yeah, I mean, raccoons will definitely do that.
I made a joke after my tent getting raided by the raccoons a couple times that it was actually Bigfoot just grabbing them and dipping their feet in mud and used them like a rubber stamper all over the tent to make me think that it was raccoons doing it.
Super clever Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd rather have a Bigfoot reach in and grab me in my tent or a raccoon in it with me. I don't know which I'd trust more.
Yeah, I'm telling you, whenever you're inside a tent with a raccoon, they get kind of scary real fast. Like this might not be a great idea.
Yeah, raccoons can get pretty aggressive when they get cornered, and it might interpret that as cornered, even though it did it to itself.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. But yeah, I had even the Kaamichis, I had gifts given to me, and that was the second time. I went back a few years ago. So back in like 2021, I was up there alone and didn't really have a lot of activity that night at all, but there were hunters out, in the woods, not in exactly where I was at, but there were hunters. And I guess that kind of quiets things down for sure.
Yeah.
Because I know those people out there that would like to shoot one, which I don't really agree with, but whatever. I don't agree with it at all. But, and then something came up right in front of my tent, on all fours, it sounded like, and it wasn't real big. Comes up and out of the woods, it gets right there and walks off. I don't know. At the time, I didn't know what it was doing, but I took a video of the whole outing. Right, there's a GoPro video, and I remember going back on the video. As soon as I saw this, I woke up in the morning. I looked down at this perfect bird's nest, just right there in front of the tent. Right where that thing had stopped and left. So it just came out of the woods and gave it to me because it wasn't there just a few hours before. So they can be friendly there too.
Yeah. I've always wondered, I mean, as humans, we put human words and human reasons on things a lot of times. And, gifting has always been one of those things that's just what it's gifting. That's how we view it. But I've always wondered if it means something different to them, like if there's a message behind it that we just don't understand, or if they're just doing it as a gift, or if they're doing it just to watch and see how we react to it.
Yeah, I think that I go through my thoughts, still go through the same exact thing as you are. And I think the same things. Like, what are they doing? Is there some kind of message to it? Because I think the most frequent one, right? And you could correct me if I'm wrong, or if you've noticed something. It's pine cones. Yeah. I don't know what their connection is with leaving piles of pine cones on people's porches or giving it to people or whatever. I don't know what that is, but that is definitely a thing. It seems like.
Yeah, piles. It's weird. It's they seem to be numbers register with them for some reason.
Oh yeah, for sure. Someday maybe we'll figure out some sort of miracle cure or something from pine cones, and we just didn't know it. They've been trying to tell us this whole time, or maybe they make a great tea or something.
Yeah,
that's definitely something that I've had happen, and I've seen it a lot. Around here, though, like, because I have some friends that own property that have interactions with them, and they get piles of turtle shells. Like, it's like they'll come out one day and there's a turtle shell. They come out 2 days later, there's 3 of them, and it just sort of depends, I guess, on how many turtle shells they have.
I know down in Texas, I've heard a lot of stuff about feathers. I haven't ran across too much feather stuff in Oklahoma. It just seems to be more like just rocks a lot of the time, but we got a lot of rocks, so that makes sense. I've also heard of like little mussel shells, like those little freshwater mussels. But yeah, the numbers things, sometimes it's just one, but oftentimes it's like a collection of things, it seems, and it's always the same item. It's not like a bunch of random items or anything like you'd expect, from an animal or something.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. It's usually the same thing, and it could be 5 of them, could be 1 of them, could be 10 of them. But it always seems like the exact thing, and they just give it to you in groups.
Well, with the numbers thing, it seems like sometimes if you leave multiple items, like if you leave 5 items out, they'll take like 2 of them, but they won't take all of them. But if you just leave like one item out, then they'll just take it.
Yep, I've noticed that, and sometimes they won't take anything at all, and sometimes they take all of it. But a lot of times they won't take everything.
Yeah,
Especially if they seem to be really shy. The ones that I've interacted with, just in different areas, they seem to be more shy about taking food than anything. I don't know what the deal is with that. You think that they just run off with it when it's obvious and I'm leaving it out for them. Because I remember this was some of my very first experiences with them up in those mountains. So of course, this is after that first night, because that first night, that was the first night. But after that, after that experience with the one walking up to me and sprinkling dirt on top of my tarp, I'm like, well, I've got to figure out how to really amp this up. I've got a good thing going for me. I need to, start thinking about what to leave out for them and things like that and see where this can go. And what I would do was I'd take a Tupperware bowl and I'd fill it up with organic apples and, just really bougie peanut butter. And I'd have like a dozen of them out in the woods. And I wouldn't attach the lid to it. What I would do is I would actually take a bandana and tie the lid to it, so the lid's not really fastened. What I was wanting to look, the reason I was doing that was I wanted to see, would the bowls get completely taken away? Would they be shredded by an animal out in the middle of the woods? Would they have little bite marks in them? With something like take the lid off and run off with it? Like, what's going to happen, right? I'm trying to get data, basically, because I'm curious just to see what's going to happen. And that stuff was expensive too, so I wanted to make sure I got the most out of it. And I remember the first set I left up there, man. Like two of the bowls were gone, vanished, never saw them again. And I've had people tell me that, well, bears went up there and they ate the whole bowl, plastic and all. And I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if bears would actually do that, because that just sounds really nasty. And
that makes zero sense to me that they would eat the plastic bowl.
Yeah, because we have bears that come up to my parents' house, and they don't eat the plastic bowl; they just lick it out. Now, I've never seen them just like eat like stuff that obviously shouldn't be eaten, like a tin can or something.
I also don't notice them like taking the item and hauling it off some other place and eating it. If it's like a kill or something like that, but like I don't know about like a plastic bowl. Like, why would they carry that off?
Yeah, because a bear doesn't really feel unsafe when it's eating, right? Like some sodies or something might do that. I've seen it done. But they don't go far with it because they don't have thumbs.
Yeah,
So how are they going to carry it?
Yeah,
It's not easy stuff. But yeah, it's like so like two of them are gone. Yeah, just like what you're talking about. Like they didn't take everything, but the rest of them. So this is what's crazy, is that up in those mountains, there's bears there, because I've run into them fairly frequently. These bears, and they range from like maybe 200, 250 pounds to like 450 pounds up there in those mountains. They've caught them over 500 pounds up there before, because everything up there is huge. The deer are huge. The squirrels are almost as big as a house cat. It's just ridiculous. Everything up there flourishes. So I'm assuming that like at least the food's definitely going to get eaten. That's what I'm thinking. It didn't get touched. Only 2 of the bowls out of 12 were taken, and then the rest of them just sat there and rot. And I know there's bear up there that should have eaten it. It defies logic that those bowls get touched. It blew my mind. And that was certainly interesting. And I guess that, maybe the Bigfoot at marked territory or something like that, and animals would not have anything to do with it, because I'd take pictures of the bowls and I would compare each bowl to its picture when I had originally set it down, and not even a squirrel or anything would touch it. If all it had to do was just push the lid off and get into it, nothing would touch anything. So that stuff just went bad. But I was still brainstorming ideas, and this is the first time I ever gave them something and they took it. That was like not food, right? Like it was definitely them that took it, because that's the only thing that would have been interested in this. And it's this little roaring Chewbacca toy. I used to be a truck driver. So if you took this Chewbacca toy, it was maybe 5 inches tall or something like that. It kind of looked like a really, really messed up Bigfoot, right? Kind of had like a messed up, deformed looking face, which made it cute. But if you shake it, it roars, which I just thought was the goofiest thing ever. And I realized that I had that, and I'm like, why don't you just leave that out there? Because it kind of looks like a really deformed Bigfoot. And I put it in a bowl, and up there on that cliff that I was talking about, that where that 8 to 9 foot drop off is, right above that cave. I leave it up there, and I leave some crystals and pretty stuff out, because they seem to like jewelry and mirrors and crystals. crystals are a weird one because I've left out all sorts of different shapes of crystals because I'm really good at finding them on eBay. And they have a specific affinity for pyramid shaped crystals. They'll leave the other ones alone, but they will take that pyramid sized crystal and they will just run off with it.
Huh.
And you'll never, yeah. Now I've had one, it turned up next to my car. Like it's gone. Didn't see it again for like a year. And I'm like, well, they just took it. And I'm glad they took it, because that's what I got it for. And then, no joke, up there next to my car one day, it's just sitting there. They just brought it back. It's like, okay. So I don't know what that's about, but I'll keep it. I still have that thing somewhere. Like that was one of my definitely keep that forever kind of thing. That was very interesting that they did that. But it was specifically only, and this is the Croatan, this is Virginia, this is the Kaamichis also, specifically the pyramid shaped crystal. That they just like it, I guess. I don't know. But that Bigfoot doll though, I'll leave that thing up there. Or that, Chewbacca doll. I say Bigfoot because I got Bigfoot on the mind.
Right.
I'll leave it up there. And I'll go after work that day, so I'll drive off, and I figure, well, I really want to see what happened to that thing because once you leave something like that out, it just kind of you got to find out as soon as possible if it's going to get taken, right? I drive all the way back up there. I mean, it's like an hour and 30-minute drive to get up there, and that's even before the hike starts. So it takes a little bit to get back here, but I'm determined. And also have to work the next day, so I got to be fast. So I go back down in there, and I'm looking, checking the food bowls as I'm going down through the woods because they're kind of scattered all over the place. Sort of the way I did it, and they're not bothered at all, of course. And then I go down to where I'd left those little crystals and the Chewbacca toy, and only the Chewbacca toy is gone. And my jaw instantly hits the ground because I was not expecting that at all. And I'm looking down at it, and it's broad daylight. I'm just standing there like dumbfounded, and I'm like trying to reason away like what could have happened to that. It's like maybe a bird took it and like pushed it off the side of that little cliff or something. I got to go down there and make sure that it's not down there. And just kind of running through the options. And as soon as I look up, and I start to like turn away. I start to turn to walk away so I can go down there and check and see if the Chewbacca is sitting down there. I hear like 3 very, very loud knocks coming from that hill across from the pond, right? Just boom, boom, boom. I mean, it just sounds like explosions basically. And of course now I know what it was, and now I am very excited because I definitely didn't expect that. I already wasn't expecting the situation at all, and so of course I'm like, all right, what do I do? What do I do? I got to do something back, and I'm looking, and I find some rocks, and I 1, 2, 3 with the rocks, right, and they don't give me anything back from that, and I'm like, well, that was super cool, right? So I'm going to go down here and see if I can figure out how to get over to those woods, and I still have yet to figure out how to get in it without crawling on my belly, basically, because it's so thick. The brush and everything is so thick getting back in there. And I managed to crawl down to where that the bottom of that cliff, right, that 8-foot drop. And that's when I realized it's a cave. It's just a big cave. It doesn't go back far, but it's big enough you could fit about 5 people, like I said earlier. And there's nothing down there. And one thing I noticed is I was coming down, I had to, I kind of fell in the creek as I was getting to where that cave was at, because I thought it was not as deep as it was, and I jumped in it, it just went right in almost, and so I noticed that I face plant, and I smell something, and I remember it's like and this is something I've noticed with the Bigfoot. Like everybody talks about the smell is not consistent at all. Some of them have don't smell good. They just don't. It smells like you hate to put it this way, but it smells like a big fart walking around. And so that's what this, and I would notice this one every now and then throughout the years. That you would smell this, you hear something walking sometimes and you would smell it. A lot of them, especially it seems like in the middle of the woods, they don't really have much of a smell at all. It smells almost like a horse, or like a kind of like a person almost, like somebody that just worked out. It's not a bad smell. It's not like overpowering or anything. And I wondered, and Robert Morgan actually pointed this out. It's like they've been seen, just like old time hunters, like kind of uh, purposefully making themselves smell like their prey or purposely masking their scent. And he's seen them do it with like dead animals, skunk. I mean, they've been observed taking the glands out of skunks and, basically wiping it all over them. So I think that the bad smell usually is on purpose, and it's not like a consistent thing at all.
Right.
But this one smelled. He definitely smelled. And, I just kind of take notes. Like when I'm smelling that, well, that's kind of, okay, noted, and go over there, check that out. There's Chewbacca toy is nowhere to be found. Of course it's not. They just acknowledge that they took it, which is incredible, right? I mean, that is mind blowing that, that level of, first paying attention to me coming down the woods like that. And then also that level of intelligence to do that. So then come back up and have to come back the same way. I didn't fall this time in the creek, which is nice. And I go back up and I'm like, well, I might as well, because it's getting dark. I don't have a flashlight. It's, I've got to work the next morning. So I've got to, really book it to get out of there. So I'm not going to be too wore out for work. I'm like, well, I'll go up here and I'll do some more knocks, right? At least I can do that. So I go up there, stand in the same exact spot, on top of that cliff or cave or however in the world you want to put it. And I do, 1, 2, 3 with those rocks, knocks. And right exactly where I smelled that smell, right where I had fallen in the creek, right there, like hidden behind a bush, comes that same 3 knocks, but the same sound, just those huge explosive knocks. It sounds like rocks being, like 50-pound boulders being slammed together is the best way I can put it. 1, 2, 3. And now I'm elated. Like, oh, that was just the greatest thing ever. And, I try it again. They don't give me anything. And I'm like, well, I could go down there and see if it'll let me see it. It's definitely not going to let me see it. I know better. So I just went ahead and left and kind of called it a day from that. But that was my first experience with gifting with one of them. That was absolutely fascinating. So
yeah,
I'm surprised that more people don't do it, because it seems like a lot of researchers, even very good researchers that I know, they don't do it. They don't like leave stuff out like that to kind of see how they react to it. They just kind of go through the woods and try to run into one. Yeah. And you might be lucky with that. They might be mad at you for trying it too. But yeah, that one again, I mean, there's just so many stories and so many experiences that is just going to stick with me forever. And I don't think I'll ever put it down. Especially after some of the stuff that I've had happen out there. It's just so interesting. Yeah, I've definitely been bit by the booger bug a few times. There ain't no cure for it.
If you've had your own encounter that you'd like to share, email me at bigfootcrossroads@gmail.com. Check out the website, bigfootcrossroads.com. You can find links to social media, past episodes, merchandise, everything you need all in one place. And until next time, remember, there's something in the woods.